Hi, I'm Jessica from Cross and Crown Long Arm Quilting, and today I am going to demonstrate how to make face masks. These are pleated, and they can have ties or they can have elastic. And the best part is these are interchangeable. So these also have a moldable nose piece, so they can be adjusted. I wear glasses, and without the moldable nose piece, they get all foggy. And so you just put it there, fit it around your ears, down, and you can pull the elastic, and that tightens the sides of the face too. And the same thing with the ties. And so that way it fits, and people can have what they want on them. So if they think ties are more comfortable, they can certainly have ties. If they like elastic better, they can have elastic. So this is one with ties. And the ties are not sewn in, they're loose, just like the elastic. And we use this bias piece right here on the side, and that makes it gather up very nicely around the elastic and the ties where it's not gaping at the face. And so without further ado, we will get right to it. Let's put these to the side. Okay. All right, so we need to start with a 7 by 15 inch rectangle. And so this is my 7 by 15 inch rectangle. So I need that. And then I need the ties, not the ties rather, but the sides cut on the bias. So I use a 2 by 4.5 inch piece. And so this is a triangle cut off the end of a piece of scrap fabric from where I cut the mask. And incidentally, you can get 3 face masks out of 1 fat quarter. And so I would lay this here, and you can see right here. So here's the 4.5 inches, and here's the 2, and I'm going to cut this at an angle. And that will give me 2 stretchy pieces. Set that there. I love this big rotary cutter. And I have 2 stretchy pieces. See? They're stretchy. That's because they're cut on the bias. And so we need these 2. Get all this loose thread off of it. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. All right, so now we're going to go to, you also need, this. So this is a tomato steak tie, and you can also use bread ties. I use this tomato steak wire, and then I fold it in half. And so my brother actually folded these in half. So this is something that the kids can do to kind of help. And that's the part that I go and put across the nose. And that's sewn in a little casing. And then if you want, initially I was doing bias ties because I felt like they tied better. But some fabric has just kind of a lot of give on its own. And so when it does, I just cut those straight off the end of the yardage. So this is a 1 probably by 42 inch piece. Ties really need to be at least 36 inches. So this is a 1 by with the fabric piece. And you need 2 of those if you want ties. If the fabric does not have a lot of give on its own, you do need to cut that on the bias. And that way the tie will stay tied. Okay, so let's go to the sewing machine. So needle out of the way, I'm going to need that. Let me try not to stab myself with it. All right, so you want to take your piece of fabric, your 7 by 15 inch rectangle, and turn it right sides together. So here is the raw edges, I turn it right sides together, and at the bottom it's kind of just hanging open right there, so the fold is at the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to sew in just a little bit, and the idea is to just keep this closed, and you will understand why in a second. So just a little bit, back stitch, cut the thread, just a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the ironing board. Those clips are going to come in very handy. And so excuse the mess. I've been making lots of masks and quilts and lots of things. All right, so I'm going to pull this open. See, here's my seam. Pull that kind of open at the seam and then use my fingers to open it. Just like that, see? I want that ironed. So let's iron this. Iron, iron. Get that nice and flat. So this is like a little Dritz travel iron, and you can get them from Amazon. I can order them for you if you want one. I can get them from my supplier and order it. I don't carry it in the shop just because normally Amazon will have it for less than what I can actually sell it for. But if you want me to order one, I will. And this is the OmniGrid mat. It's double-sided, so it folds up. It's a fold away, and this is the 12 by 18, so it's got a cutting side and then it's got a pressing side, and I really do like this pressing side because it gets nice and hot. All right, so let's go back to the sewing machine. So I'm gonna flip this right side out. So there's the little opening, and see, you are eventually going to be wanting to put your hand in here if you want to get a filter in it. So that's why we just do the sides, and that's just so it is enough to hold it together. But for now, I need to sew a seam along this edge right here. And so I'm going to sew this down. Like that. And you see how, I don't know if y'all can see. See, this is like that. The reason these stitches are all kind of crazy like that is because that thread is wrapped around that needle. So this is going to have to be pulled out. If your stitches pull out very easy like that, you have a problem. So let's try this again. Rethread this machine right quick. This has an automatic threader, which sometimes is working, but most of the time it works just fine. This morning it's going to give me some trouble, probably because I have it on camera. It's perhaps camera shy. So, there. That should be better. Okay, now that the needle is threaded properly and it's not all twisted around, let's try it again. Oh, I don't know what happened. I see another problem. This is going to be a fun video for everybody to watch. You are going to get some lessons in troubleshooting today. So the sewing machines all have ways that they need to be threaded. This particular one goes from here into these little thread guides and into this tension disc. And then it's supposed to go down here. Yeah, that's in the tension disc. I know that because I can put the foot down and I can feel tension. And you see this little tension spring. And so put the foot back up. This is the take up lever and it's going to go down through here. And then let's see if that's it's any better. That should not be like that. Maybe I should have checked all that before I started sewing, huh? What do you think? My 15-year-old daughter is doing this recording for me. And so this is you just kind of have to make sure that you're working all of that away from being sewn. Yes, much better. See how that's better? Here's the scissors. Yeah. So it's really important to make sure that you have your sewing machine threaded properly. Okay. So now that this is sewn down, we are ready for the nose piece. Before I can do that, I need to iron this. So come close, Quinn. I'm going to pull this, so if it starts out here, I don't have any room to put a casing for the nose piece. So I'm going to pull this down just a little, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. I have found it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to iron that flat. And then while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and iron the whole thing just like this. Okay, so now we are ready for the nose piece, and that's going to go in that little pocket that we made. And I want to center it. And I just eyeball it, and so I just use my fingers, so like it's 3 fingers, and then I kind of give it a little fold there so I can see the line where I folded it around the edges. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I can. And so now I'm going to go back and sew it. And so you could certainly use a piece of Taylor's chalk if you wanted to. Don't use anything that can't wash out though, because it will show. So I'm just going to sew down to the edge. See? Down to the edge of that. I do not want to go past that because I need my pocket to open. Turn it. So this is a pivot. And now I'm going to go just straight down the edge right there. Just like that. And I can feel that wire. I'm going to go past it. And sew up. Tack, tack, cut. And now we have made this little pocket. Okay. And so now, this is where people tend to get hung up. The pleating. So come kind of close. Pleating the mask can be intimidating for people who don't pleat. I am not a garment maker. I'm a quilter. Pleating is not something I do a lot. But I have figured out how to just eyeball it. And I had a piece of like a paper towel up here somewhere, but I've lost it, where I marked out the pleats, and I was going to show you on the paper towel. And everything is up here, so I can't find it. Anyway, so I want the top pleat to kind of come close. Oops, not there. That one I pleated upside down. To kind of come close to the casing. This mask is bigger. I've been making them about this size, so I like this better. So I'm going to eyeball it. I'm going to look. And I'm going to pinch. This is a finger's width. So that I'm going to push this down. Okay. Now my son found a lot of success. He would make the pleat and then he would go ahead and press it. I use these clips and I'm going to clip the pleat in place. Okay, so when I touch it, can you see that little lump there, Quinn? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I touch it, I can feel the bottom of the pleat. I'm going to fold the next pleat to the bottom. I don't want to overlap the pleats. So my clip is down here at the bottom of this pleat. So I just want it to go there. So this, I fold it and I pinch another amount and fold it up. Now this meets the bottom of the pleat. So you can see, here's this pleat. There's the bottom of the first pleat. And see how it kind of meets right there? Can y'all see that? And so that's what I want. My kid is laughing at me. I think she expected me to say, well, can you? I didn't hear anybody. Is that what you thought, Quinn? I don't know. Okay. So, and then if you want, you can press the pleat into place. So these are not stacked up. You don't want them stacked on top of each other. You want them meeting just like that. Okay. And so now I need to do the third pleat. So I want to have a little bit left over on the end to kind of give you room to pull it. So it's right there. Fold it up. And I got it on top of the pleat. And so I just rolled it down with my finger until I feel the bottom of the pleat. And I can feel I've got a little place right here to grab. So I'm gonna, that's messing with my OCD. Right there. And then straight across. And the mask is the same size here and the same size here, roughly. I don't worry about making sure everything is just super perfect. As long as it looks nice and it's functional, it's going to work. So, there. And like I said, my son really likes to iron the pleats after he gets them, as he's going and after he gets this done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back under the sewing machine and I'm going to sew along the very edge of this. I don't want to come way over because then the seam is going to, the seam that holds the pleats are going to be like really visible, which wouldn't maybe be a problem if I had matching thread, but I want it to be just right along the edge of the fabric because the point is that the pleats are held shut so we can put the bias edge on there. If you're very brave, you could go ahead and clip this on there and just sew it all at once, and that works too. I've been sewing since I was 17 or 18. I learned to sew when I was 12, but I've been sewing pretty regularly since I was 17 or 18, and I'm old now, so I've done it for a little while, and even I don't do that a lot. It's just as simple to sew the stitch. So you see I've lined this up with the edge of that foot. So it makes a little bit less than a 1/4 inch seam. I'm just holding the entire thing shut. So now the pleats are sewn. So see how they're not stacked up on each other? And the bottom of the pleat meets the top of the next. So there's the bottom and there's the top and there's the bottom and center. And then I have a little bit of piece to grab right here. So that way I can pull it down when I put the mask on my face. So when you flip and do the other side, these pleats want to move. So I only do one piece at a time. Take your time. And so there. Now it is ready for the bias pieces. Let's get those. Okay, so here's the bias pieces. And these will go, I center them right here. Don't pull them, otherwise they'll be really wrinkly. Center it, and then I fold it over. And then I fold this over, and I want it just on there kind of flat. Just like that. And I'm going to sew that on the edge at definitely the 1/4 inch, so hopefully I'll miss where we sewed the pleat on. See? So the seam where I sewed the pleat is right here. And this is the seam where I sewed that little bias piece. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. There. My kid's laughing at me again. Oh, okay. Never mind. Maybe she's just
It looked amazing.
Oh, sorry, she was complimenting me. So right here at the 1/4 inch, I should probably go ahead and put that there. Clip it. Oh, that would have been wrong. You can also use pins. Normally I just hold it. And so I'm going to let the machine do all of the work. I am not pulling it through. I am not pushing it. The machine is feeding it, which is what you want. Okay, so here we have this. And it doesn't matter which side you sew it on. I tell my son to put it on the back and fold it to the front because it's really hard to kind of stitch in this ditch right here for it not to show. But we'll just see. So now I'm going to iron this because I want to be able to fold it pretty easily. So I'm going to iron my pleats down, and then I am going to push this with the iron just like that. See? Push that with the iron. I'm going to do the other side the same way. Push this with the iron. And it is a little bit narrower here. That's okay. So I'm going to fold this. And I'll play chicken with the iron a little bit. I'm going to do this side. Woo. And that gets really warm. It's almost like it's ironing it from the bottom up. There we go. All right. And so do remember that those twist ties normally have plastic and you can actually melt them into the fabric. I've done that. It shows green through the other side. All right, so now I'm going to take it and put it right there. So so when I have my son match these two, since his is on the front, and just sew right there. And that gives it a really neat appearance. But you can also just put this a little bit past that. Can you see? Just a little bit past that, because then you can just sew right here and it'll catch that edge. Just a little bit past it. And put that there to hold it. Okay. So, and I can feel it. Let's stick that right there. And I'm going to go right next to that seam. This is also how you machine sew on quilt binding. And I can do it for just little stretches, but I'm not terribly good at it, which is okay because I would rather hand sew on my quilt binding anyway. So see, sewed that right down, and it's not visible from the front, and that is what you want that to look like, just like that. Okay, let's do the same on the other side, just a little bit past it. Whoops, I'll get that in a second.
I got it.
Okay, there. Just, what is he doing?
I don't know.
I heard my son saying something to my youngest daughter along the lines of, if I don't see a better attitude out of you. I'm not really sure what's going on in there. They know I'm vulnerable, I guess. Okay, so right there along this. And again, take your time. It doesn't have to be done in a couple of minutes. And then you'll find after you do it, you can actually do them in a couple of minutes. So there's that. And all of that's done. Let me put this loose thread. And you do want to back tack those stitches down, because remember, we're going to have ties or elastic pulling at them. And so clip your loose threads. Oh, this made a pretty one. I hadn't used this fabric to make a mask yet. It did. It made a really nice looking one. Okay, so this is the front part of the mask. And as you can see, it did not take very long to make. So now you need to decide, do you want elastic or do you want ties? And if you want ties, you would take these ends that are these strips that you cut. And remember, it was 1 inch. And this was the length of fabric, but technically you only need 35 or 36. So I fold these half here and half here, and I meet those halves. See that? So I fold it like a quarter in and a quarter in, and they meet in the middle, right? And then I fold that over again. And so I have this. And this goes under the machine. And if you don't have a straight stitch plate on your machine, if it's got like that wide little kind of half C looking thing, you will need a leader. Otherwise the machine can shove that right down in there. And so now I'm just gonna give this a little tug, because this is another reason you want it on the bias. Do that. Tuck the ends in. And tuck all that in the middle. Just like this. Just sew right down the edge. Just like that. Ties do take a second to make. And just like that. And I give it a little finger press here. And so these masks don't have a lot of loose ends that are there to fray or come undone. So when you wash it, you don't have to worry about them coming apart. So let's see, my first video I did was based on the instructions that I originally received with the masks, and there were some steps in there that I felt like were kind of extra steps, and determined that they were not needed. And so there was a lot of stay stitching and that kind of thing, but I washed a mask with and without them several times, and it just wasn't needed. If you're using fabric that is not just, like if it's from a big box store, you probably do want to stay stitch any kind of raw edges that you've got. But really great quality fabric. So far I haven't needed to. And that is how you make a tie. So I will take the end and cut it at an angle. Just, whoops, let's see. Cut this at an angle. And I would recommend a decent pair of sewing scissors. Okay, and so then you have the tie. And so then what you do next is I have this stick thing right here. And it's my favorite tool for anything that I make that I'm going to have to feed through or turn right side out if it's a strap or a tie of some kind. So what you do is you stick it through here. Right, like that. And you have to be really careful because remember, this is folded down. You don't want to get into that. Then you put this on the end of that little latch hook. And I like to just stick it through it and pull it through just like that. See? And then that would be how you put in a tie. And then you just do the same thing and see how it gathers up when you pull it. That's because that is on a bias and it is just going to gather up and look nice. And the insides that are the raw edges on the inside, they are not going to fray and come undone. All right, so that's how you do a tie. So let's show you the elastic. I am using two kinds of elastic. I have this. This is 1/4 inch latex free elastic, and it's kind of stiff. So I give it a good hearty pull, and then it's automatically softer and looser. And so that's much better. But it's still really tight, and it pulls on the ears really badly. And so I cut off a longer piece than I would with this elastic. With this 1/8 inch elastic, it's really soft, it's super stretchy, and it's a lot easier on the ears. So with this, I would cut this off at around 8 inches. So that's 8. And then I'll cut it, fold it like this. So I have my two little 8-inch straps there and here. So I have two little 8-inch pieces, and I'm going to feed those through the same way that I did with and I didn't need the stick for that. But the little 8-inch pieces are really great because I can take them and I can tie it. And so I'm going to hold my end and I'm going to push the knot up. And so then I would pull it really tight and I would tie it, and it still makes it still stays really very stretchy and soft on the ear. So you can use an 8 or 9-inch piece for that, and it's good. So the latex free elastic and even regular 1/4 inch elastic, it's harder on the ears, so I use more of it. And so you would I use a 9.5-inch piece, which is pretty sizable. And so cut it. And then cut another one the same length. And so you feed it through the same way as you did the tie. And you get it through there. And so to make sure that the elastic stays adjustable, I'm not going to tie this. I'm going to sew it right here. And I'm not going to sew it overlapped like this. Because then it's harder to pull it up. I'm going to sew it like this. And so I'll sew this right here. And it ends up like this, see? So it sticks up. And the reason that I do that is because it makes it easier. So if somebody were to get a mask from me and it was really loose on the face, because obviously my face is bigger, and so if somebody smaller were to get a mask, this piece is likely going to fit just fine. This is the 7 inches is a really standard size, but you know, the space from here to here is different, you know, for everybody. And so their comfort level is different. So I want them to be able to adjust it or to bring it right back to me if they buy one of mine. I sell these for $8 on my Facebook page. And if you go through my website, they are $10, but you get to pick any fabric that you want that I have in stock, and that's at www.crossandcrownlongarmquilting.com or www.myquiltstudio.com. And so anyway, so it's done like this. And so now if they want to, they can tie it, or they can just sew it, you know, put it under their sewing machine and just sew across it a few times to shorten it, and then they would just feed that back through here, and that way they can have the elastic any length that they feel like they need to keep the mask comfortable. That is particularly important with this latex free because it is very stiff. The elastic will get looser and eventually wear out, so it will likely need to be replaced a lot faster than ties will. Ties, they're gonna last, you know, as long as the masks masks last, but they are more difficult to make, and they do um, you know, add some time to the construction of the mask. So that is how you make face masks. And if you have any questions, you can shoot me an email at cross and crowned long arm quilting at gmail.com, or find me on Facebook. It's you can just do a search for cross and crown long arm quilting, and my logo is blue with a little, it looks like this, and it's kind of stacked up here. And so you can find me on Facebook too. I believe it's facebook.com/cross and crown long arm quilting, but I can't remember. Anyway, so if you've got any questions, feel free to contact me and let me know. If you want to order a mask from me, that's fine. Or you can learn how to make them on your own. Thanks.